So here I am on take 2 of my Mont Marte Oil Pastel painting. As you can see, I have redrawn the entire picture, and this time I've outlined it in a oil-based pencil. The problem I had when I scraped off the other image was that it left some staining. So all around here where I'd already done this part, it left staining. So I scraped it off, and that in itself was fine. And then I got some turps and I scrubbed it off, and gently scrubbed it off, and removed as much paint as I could. But what did happen in the meantime was that some of the texture of this canvas, now I don't know whether it's because it's fairly old and a vintage canvas, some of the canvas tore off and left like this deep hole where you can imagine like when paper tears when you get it wet. So it wasn't a lot, but it was in the middle here, and this is the largest canvas I have currently until I get my new one. And what I did was I decided, well, actually I didn't like the texture because it was too much and it wasn't allowing me to do what I wanted. And I also had that problem. So what I did was I got some white gesso. I've given it 3 coats of white gesso, and it has actually smoothed it down a bit. And it's also quite conveniently covered these holes. So gesso tends to sort of, in this case, self-level itself. I don't know if it does that all the time, but in this case it did. So I applied it with a foam brush, covered up that tear, little tear in there, and give it a little bit of a smoother texture. So I think I can probably get to do what I want now. The only problem I foresee right now is scratching out details, but I'm just going to have to get on with it and see where we go with it. So I'll place my pastels up the top here. Canvas is holding them in place. That's quite a bit of a bonus, thank you. There's the other set, the other half, and I'm also getting a smaller tin, which again is these. So we're going to carry on as we started and see where we go with everything. Now it may be that you'll see some different ways of doing things. It may not, I don't know. I don't know how you paint. But I will tell you that I will be laying some colours on, and you'll be thinking to yourself, why am I doing that? Well, we'll just see as it goes. And if it all comes out well, that's a bonus. I'm just going to lay some white down to begin with. Do this small area first, see what I can make of this, and then if I get what I want from doing this, I will carry on in the same vein all the way across the picture. And all being well, I'll record the process. Using the extra soft white for this. Actually got quite a little bit of hardness to it, which is nice, or firmness, not hardness. That's the wrong thing to say. Just making sure I lay plenty on where I want it. I need a little bit in here, so I'll just extend that out here just to help with matters, and a little bit underneath the nose here. And that's just there for safety's sake, or security's sake, if you want to call it that. And I'm just going to smooth that out, because that's what I do. I don't like all this chunkiness. I like things that look like oil paintings. Just smoothing that out, just because I can. Right, I'm going to start on the eye. Let's do the other eye while we're at it. That way you keep everything uniform. So you can, you know, if I was to do this eye, say, tomorrow, I might end up doing it different. But while I'm in the sort of groove that I'm in for the one eye, then it's going to help me to do the second eye. Right, let's put that away. Now let's see if we can find another colour. Because it's going to be the underneath colour of the dark part of the eye. Adding in little bits of colour where they need to be. Sometimes I lay it on thick, and then round here, down the bottom where it's probably going to be a bit lighter, I'll lay it on a bit lighter. I'm just going to have a blend just to tidy that up. Blend the green. If I need to, I'll adjust things as I go. You'll notice that that darkened up there is because I got a little bit of dirt on the cotton bud, which I'm kind of using to my advantage. So sometimes you can use a dirty cotton bud if you need to. Just darkened up that green a bit for me. A lot of people don't think about that. They perhaps just tend to throw the cotton bud away, but it's just called thinking ahead, I think. Just going to put in a little bit of darkness. Sorry, wrong end. Darkness there. Because the eye is very subtle, isn't it? So there's no need to really go in thick with this. These little touches of colour is where you go with this. Use my cotton bud again, just to blend that in. Get that softness of the eyeball. Because all the time remembering that should I need to, I can scratch out and get the lighter colours through. This is a little bit different. It's a little bit harder on a canvas like this, but that's what I've chosen to do, so I'm just going to stick with it. I want a dark blue. I always put blue underneath my blacks, livens them up, gives them some life. Go on, bud. There will be moments when you won't use a cotton bud. When you do some blending, but most of the top surface isn't blended. A little piece of black. All this really is a guide to when I get to the point where I'm going to sharpen everything up. I'm just getting the colour in where I want it at the moment. And you'll notice I'm using my cotton bud to draw. Because I can. A little bit of violet underneath here. Always be aware when you start doing things like that, that you've got to be aware of what the colours are that you want underneath. Otherwise you'll lose them and you won't be able to go back. Well, not so easily, let's put it that way. I need a clean cotton bud. It's all very highly detailed work at the moment. It's just a movement for the way forward. Again, this is the underneath colour. In there with that. So anyway, I'm going over with the blue now. Right, there's the colour added. Shape everything. Don't forget I've already put white there. You'll see why in a little while. I think the thing with highly detailed oil pastel work is it does need you to plan as you go. You can't just go straight on and get the result you want, because it's just not going to work, because you will not put a colour on that you meant to put on. So you need to plan ahead. A bit like driving a heavy goods vehicle for definite. And I know that because I've passed my test on them. And that's how I got taught in the Air Force. Plan ahead. Just using that to show where my darker colours are going to be. Don't really need to do that, but I'm just planning ahead, like I said. Using the colour that's on the cotton bud, just to draw in some detail. Top colour. very intricate, this bit. Probably going to be the most detailed part of the picture, I think. Oh, you'll see that I went over there a little bit. Doesn't matter because I've got the colour underneath, so I can just scratch that off. Okay. Right. Spread the top layer over the bottom layer. It's beginning to take shape now. I know what I'm going to do first. Don't know why I didn't use this right from the start, actually. Just going to refine it with my colour shaper. Yeah, fills in all the gaps a bit better and doesn't take off the pastel like the cotton bud would. That's better, much better. Okay, just going to use a little bit of this black just to bring down a little bit of shadowing on here. There, here we go. And do that here as well. A little bit of shadowing going on in there. Bringing a little bit of the black down. I've probably overdone that, but we won't worry about that yet. One thing I like with my way of doing art is that I will not tell you that we don't make mistakes, but what I will tell you is how we get past them mistakes. Okay, preliminary detail. This is where it will give you a guide as to how your canvas is going to react underneath scratched details. And what you will find, like I'm getting here, is that you will end up with some not ultra refined, but some nice texture. And at times you might have to press a little bit harder just to get the oil pastel out. And then you may just have to add that little bit of colour in that you were hoping was going to be saved. So there, like that. Okay. And then of course you have to shape it all back to where it was. Yeah, that's not bad. Now up here, I want to take just a little bit of this shadow out of the eye. So I'll scratch it off. And again, just go back in to spread the colour about. If this was paper, this would be reacting quite differently to this, because you'd be scratching, but you'd actually be leaving colour behind, whereas this seems to be removing the colour. Well, it doesn't matter, all you do is just go back in with the colour, a little touch of colour in there, blend it in. Okay, we're going to do the same this side. So technically that should be purple under there, but it's not. So there's a little bit. Now, that's just because it's a canvas. If it wasn't a canvas, it would be quite different. We can scratch in a little bit of detail here. Don't be frightened to scratch your detail out and then go back in with your cotton bud, either refining it or shaping it and adding a little bit of colour back in, because where you've scraped it you should be able to do that. There we go. Get that nice little bit of purple in there now. There you go. See, I've muted that down slightly. I'm just going to get rid of a bit of this dirtiness over this eye because I don't like it. Shouldn't be there. And again, get a clean cotton bud. Yeah, it's just because I overdid the shadow there. I'll bring a little bit down now. There we go. That's better. It's quite easy just to go slightly too far when doing this. So you just have to keep refining. If you can hear anything, it's my dog scratching at the carpet. I don't know why, but that's dogs for you. And you just get it tonally to where you want it to be. Now I'm going to try to put a little bit of tiny white in here for the reflection of the eyes. It may not go exactly where you want it. That's when you go back to your cotton shaper, or cotton bud I should say. You shape it. Right, I'm just going to go in with the black into the pupil, so I can make that a little bit darker, around the edges here, around the edges here, just so I can make that darker and get some contrast. Just to show deeper parts of the eye and darker parts of the eye. And again, shape it. This, I have to say, would be far, far easier on a piece of paper. I haven't made the right choice, but I actually just really fancied using this canvas. I think a canvas would be better for a landscape. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use one of my cotton buds. That white didn't go quite how I wanted it to. Get a little piece of white off. Not too much, do a little bit at a time. And dab that in. There we go. That's better. That's much better. And I'm going to use the dark cotton bud just to shape it. Right, for the moment I'm going to leave that. We're going to start colouring around now. So for the moment I'm going to get the soft one. I'm going to work out where my whites are going. Again, I'm going to get a white cotton bud. I'm going to just smooth that down. Need to go to my blacks first. Okay, so should have done it in blue first, but we won't worry about it. We'll add a bit of blue in now. So it's not going to make a lot of difference. Okay, I'm just going to soften these into each other, these colours. The reason I like the colour shaper for doing this is because you don't lose the intensity of your colour with a colour shaper. But with a cotton bud it tends to lift some of the colour out and you lose the intensity. Making sure it's black where it needs to be black. Every now and then clean the tip of your colour shaper. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and this is a bit where I went wrong last time, I'm going to add in a little bit of blue. This is because I'm going to start scratching out some hairs. Now in my reference I can't really see that, but it's just complete white, but that's not going to be good enough, I'm afraid. So sometimes you have to use your artistic vision to change things a bit. It'll be barely noticeable, as you can see, but there'll be something there with which to get your white hair detail. And of course, if you've put the white underneath already, you can bring it back to white anyway, quite easily. Again, I've gone too far with the black and blue again. But this is what you do when you're painting. You're not going to get it completely and utterly perfect. You're going to have to keep manipulating and moving things. So I'm going to just spread that out with my colour shaper because it's easier to do with that. It's not likely to pick up so much colour. Using it a bit like a paintbrush. Too much blue in there by a long chalk. Let's try and scrape a bit of that out. Bring it into here. The way I see it is, you have to do what you think is right, and it'll work or it won't. And if it don't work, as long as you know how to get out of these things, which is what I teach a lot, then there's no reason you shouldn't end up with a finished painting. brought some blue out of that then. Didn't mean to. I'm not going to worry about it now, because unlike before, if I remember rightly, I've actually put white underneath this time, so we're not going to worry about it. And now we'll see what we can do. It will all come to fruition. Believe me, if I didn't think it would, like before, I would have stopped by now. But this is going to work. Just have to keep working at it. This is the most awkward part, is bringing these dark parts into this. Now, it doesn't matter because I have a technique that will get around that. But it's bloody annoying because it just elongates the picture. Darker yellow and put that over the top of what I've already got. So I think it's going to have to be that one. Maybe not all of it, but on the areas where I feel that the darker area is. None of this is anywhere near a finished, completed part of this picture. This is all just, well, a little bit more than underlayers to where I want to go with it. So now I'm going to try and find a nice colour for the nose. I think that's going to be better. We'll just put that in there preliminary. It's not going to be the finished article, as I keep saying. The trouble with a canvas is it does take some filling in. There's a lot of work to do in this yet. is only a start. Well, look, you're getting the idea. I'm going to record the rest of it, but I think this is enough for now. It's a mess. It will be. You only just... and it will come to it. So there's a few techniques I have to try a little bit later on to get it to where I need it to be, and obviously a lot more layering, and there's stacks and stacks and stacks of this picture to go, but you're getting the idea of how I start to fill things in.